Welcome back to Around the Table with Stacy Smith. We're talking about politics and the political scene in Pennsylvania. I want to continue on this theme that we've been talking about as far as what happened in 2022. You've all indicated that there was probably a lack of leadership among the Republican Party for the state of Pennsylvania. So, Jim, you were former state Democratic Party chairman, and all of you have been involved, the governor, in state politics. So, how does the Republican Party turn that around?
What they have to do is what any party at any level has to do after they've had a bad cycle. I'll step back from that. Any chairman, any party organization does this religiously after any cycle, good, bad, or mediocre. You study the film, what worked and what didn't. Where were we successful? Where weren't we? The state Democratic Party, in conjunction with the coordinated campaign, is looking at our successes, looking at where we maybe could have done better, and looking on how we build on the success we just had and what worked. Conversely, the GOP has to be honest with itself. What worked and what didn't. Not much worked for them. And I think we've all touched on why we think that happened and what they need to do moving forward. So they have to be honest with themselves and honest with what's going on out there. Election deniers lost. They have to have an honest conversation with that wing of their party. If you want to keep losing, go right ahead. We're not going to be there with you to do it. They have to take back control with Republican candidates that appreciate the need for their party to get back to basic conservative values and principles to push back. This is a two-party system. One side right now has a tremendous advantage because of the dysfunction Donald Trump has brought to the other. Until they fix that, Stacy, it's going to be a one-party system, not just in Pennsylvania, but nationally.
Stacy, I'll chime in here. I agree with Jim on that. I look at it in two segments. One segment is we didn't put up the best candidates, both for Senate and for governor. They were an anchor on the House seats. They affected the House not being retained by the Republicans, in my personal opinion. But secondly, I don't think the state committee and the Republican Party as a whole in Pennsylvania has adapted to the new style of voting, and that's early voting.
Yes.
And they're going to have to do that in this election because there are 4 statewide judicial seats that are up. Get used to it so that they're ready in 2024 to compete for those votes early on. The election doesn't begin 1 month or 2 months in September. It begins in June to get ready for when early voting starts.
Yeah, very quick, Governor. That's a very significant factor that needs to be mentioned. It's been voting by mail has been vilified by Donald Trump in the GOP, and it had a chilling effect. And as others on this panel have said, that is what hurt. That's what hurt a lot. And I've seen leaders in your party, GOP chairs at every level, speaking out nationally as well about the need to embrace that. It's here, whether the voters in the GOP like it or not. If you want to win, you have to embrace that technology. By the time you get out of the gate, we're at the 3/4 turn. Why should you not take a play or an ability to be successful and not use that in your arsenal like we do? I think your party will start to embrace that moving forward.
You know, unfortunately, when either party faces a challenge from the extreme fringe of its party, there's little you can do because it's going to take time. It's like a pig moving through a python. You know, you just have to wait for it to come out the other end, and that's what's sort of happening here.
We've never had that analogy before, but that was interesting to say the least.
My New Year's resolution is to use that at least 100 times.
At least 100 times. None of you have touched on this as far as the state house goes, and that is that the redistricting that was done by the commission, which Republicans will say made the map more favorable to Democrats. Did that play a role or not?
Well, certainly it played a role. But I think the biggest part was, again, the organization, and the top of the ticket is what can really affect those down ballot races. And that was clear. They weren't overwhelmingly beaten in the seats that they lost. Some of it had to do with redistricting, but I think equally or more so had to do with the top of the ticket.
And we didn't deal with redistricting directly, but we did indirectly. We all said collectively that we thought that the Democrats were going to tighten their minority to a higher number, that they were going to win several seats and make it within striking distance in 2024. The surprise for us was they got all the way and then some. They ended up taking control of the chamber. But for Republicans moving forward in 23 and 24, Stacy, it's really about, for Republicans, it's the elephant in the room. It's Donald Trump, who once had his stock and his caliber was rising and very high. And there were some good years for Donald Trump. I have to admit that. Listen, the stock has fallen exponentially. The version of Trump now is difficult for even most Republicans to embrace. But he does have that constituency, those zealots, those people that Trump or nobody that the Republicans have to deal with, because we are a minority party. We not only have to find a way to distance ourselves from Trump and i.e. get him out of this race, but we have to get it soon enough. That has to happen soon enough for us to bring those people back to the party. Those zealots are never voting Democrat. But the problem for Republicans are they just going to go home? Are they going to take their ball and bat? They lost Trump and they're not going to vote in the 24 cycle. If that happens, that will spell disaster for Republicans. So we need time to heal as a party, to come together as a party again. And that's not going to happen if Trump is still in this race late in 2023. He has to get out of the way quickly for Republicans to recuperate.
I want to continue. Hold on just a second. I want to continue on with this, but we have to take a quick break and we'll be back in just a moment.